The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge, get your hands off me, you damn dirty Ryan Luis Rodriguez presiding. The all rise for the Honorable Judge Rodriguez.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Planet of the Apes 2001, a reimagining of the 1968 classic about an astronaut who crash lands on a planet where highly evolved apes rule over humans. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always, in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you're appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Your Honor, esteemed members of the jury, my name is Maynard Bangs, and I'm an astronaut who has just returned from the planet of the remakes. Bum, bum, bum. I come before this ad hoc tribunal today to testify to the horrors I witnessed during my time there, in hopes that we might be able to avoid suffering the same terrible fate here one day. The things I saw there, terrible things. I saw actors reduced to the level of little more than beasts, gnashing and clawing for what measly scraps of imagination they could find littered across the floor. I saw a magnificently crafted world made up of colors and interesting characters, destroyed, laid waste, now nothing more than a desolate wasteland, a broken shell of what once was there, with only the smallest traces of that wondrous world which came before it. The cruelest joke of all. It was an upside-down world where apes and man were objects of each other's lusts, where continuity and coherence were tossed aside for the cheapest of plot twists, where incredible fan service was painstakingly paid to certain lines and certain actors from the original film, but nothing of the original plot or themes remained. Nothing, gentlemen, nothing I saw there made any sense. It was a madhouse! A madhouse! I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. It's evident you tried your best. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Ron McAdams.
He did
Please
it!
present your opening statement.
If you are to be judged by what came before you, we would all be considered to be failures. Hold on. This is opening statements, so hold your water.
Sustained.
If you were to judge the 2001 Planet of the Apes by other adaptations of the original story that came before it, you would probably deem all of these other efforts a failure as well. But I am here to argue that the 2001 Planet of the Apes, as it exists in a vacuum of its own story, is actually a fairly entertaining and competent film that, in the entertainment industry, did that most important thing. It turned a profit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAdams. Mr. Bangs, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
So those are some sweet honey words that comes from my esteemed colleague that we should consider this movie in a vacuum. But the 2001 Planet of the Apes doesn't want you to consider it in a vacuum. To point out that it makes very painful callbacks to famous lines from the first film, like one of the apes snarls, "Take your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty human," which made my eyes roll so hard they almost fell out. But
That's true.
it also features cameos from Charlton Heston and Linda Harrison, who were the two human leads in the classic 1968 film. And then, of course, you have Heston growl out, damn them all to hell. You know, it's often said, don't remind people of a better movie in the middle of your bad movie. And this demonstrates exactly why.
Mr. McAdams, would you care to rebut this?
I would say that any effort like this is going to have to pay a certain level of fan service to people that just stumbled in drunk off the street expecting to see a shot-for-shot remake of something that they saw on cable in the 1980s. So it's maybe unfair to say, well, Michael Clark Duncan he had to say the titular line, or he had to say the reversal of the line, because we're trying to turn this the plot of the movie on its head. It's maybe unfair to judge all that, because there are certain things you would have to put in any sort of soft reboot to make sure that you don't completely alienate the original audience. But I don't believe that anyone who walked in non-drunk to the 2001 remake or reboot of Planet of the Apes didn't expect to see some things like that.
Well, what percentage of them were non-drunk? Question from the jury.
Probably not many.
Looking at my records here, I would say that there was a 2-drink minimum at the premiere.
Nice.
I mean, that's great that they're trying to play a little fan service to the original movies. It would have been great if they had kept some of the canonical world building that had been built by the film series or the novel or the television series, instead of just making everything up all new, which doesn't really hold together to scrutiny. Now, in the original, we all know that Charlton Heston was wrong. It was Earth all along.
Love it.
It turns out that, as we learn in the series, cats and dogs are wiped out by a plague, and humans begin to take apes on as pets and eventually slaves. And
objection.
Yeah.
We need to limit our conversation to the confines of the movie, the 2001 movie, because if you want to world build,
I'm simply comparing it to its source material.
They didn't get sequels for this.
That's because it didn't do well enough. There was a planned one that was scrapped, but the film wasn't, as you said, financially successful enough to warrant a sequel. I'm just saying that I'm just comparing that with the origin, especially to the novel too.
Are you saying that you would have a more favorable opinion of the 2001 Planet of the Apes movie if they had made a sequel where apes completely covered in hair went into a sauna?
No, I don't think so. But the point is that in the original, the apes rising are really, it's man's fault, right? Not only do they train the apes as pets and begin to rely on them too much, they also set off the Alpha Omega bomb, which pretty much wipes out most of man, leading apes very easily to take over the planet. It's men's fault. I can't really say in 2001 that there's a lot that the men could do to really stop the apes. The apes, in this case, they're guinea pigs on a space station that's outside Saturn, and they're taught to be rudimentary pilots by human scientists they send on missions that are deemed too dangerous for men. By the way, 2 words, scientists: remote control. A lot less prone to simian error. We don't need to be sending monkeys to their deaths.
Mr. Maynard, Colin Quinn was not available for the 2001 Planet of the Apes movie, so remote control was not an option.
That's fair. But it actually was an option. We could have had automatic.
Was Adam
pilots.
Sandler available? That's the question.
I think he is one of the apes. I think he's one of the extra apes.
He is always available.
Didn't even know they were making a movie.
So anyway, there's some wormhole nonsense. The space station crashes on this planet, which is apparently called Ashlar. So it does have a name. And the apes end
Ben
up...
Ashlar?
Not Ben Ashlar. Big Ben Ashlar. So the apes end up...
I'm not on trial here.
Not yet. The apes end up revolting against their human masters. They kill some of them, but they must apparently leave enough humans to multiply and begin to kind of repopulate the planets. But the humans end up living subservient to apes. Now, I don't know how 20 apes, because and that's generous. Maybe we see 20 apes. How they managed to overthrow a crew of a space station that has laser guns. I don't even know how that's possible. In the case of the original, man wipes themselves out. Apes just kind of backfill. In this case, the apes actually managed to overthrow a better armed, better trained crew.
Mr. McAdams.
Well, I would say that they had time on their side, because when the pod is to fill people in on the plot of the film, when the ape steals the pod, basically, they travel in time. So he arrives there long before our human arrives there. So
you're talking about the ending of the film. I'm not at the ending of the film yet. I'm talking about
no. I'm talking about I'm talking about at the beginning of the movie, because the pod, the ape or the chimpanzee gets there before. Sorry, no, you're right.
Yeah. In this case, the space station Oberon crash lands first. So one of the way the wormhole works is it kind of everything comes out in reverse order. So Pericles flies the pod in, Mark Wahlberg chases after him, the Oberon goes after them. So the Oberon comes first, and then Mark Wahlberg, and then Pericles last. So I get what you're saying. They have all the time.
Are you claiming that Mark Wahlberg is a selfish lover?
I do. I think so. But my point is, I don't think in the moment when the Oberon crashes and they have their ape specimens kind of break loose and revolt, I don't see 20 or so apes taking on even 10 humans armed with laser pistols. I think that's a very short revolt.
Have you ever fought a chimpanzee?
You don't let them get close enough to you, Your Honor, to fight them. You
They're
shoot
tenacious.
them. You shoot them. You probably only have to shoot a few. The rest will fall in line, I think.
Well, we honestly don't know who in the crew was injured or what. I mean, we do see their video logs where they have taken over, and the humans do seem pretty chill about their spaceship being taken over by monkeys. Who knows? With everything that was going on, they probably decided a intermarriage maybe program. We'll merge our two societies together in hopes that we can really achieve some sort of peaceful resolution to this. And they were too busy crashing to realize that maybe that was a bad idea.
Possibly, and some ape human love I may bring up a little later. Now, Mark Wahlberg, as we say, he does arrive. He ends up coming out of the wormhole thousands of years later to find it's the planet of the apes. Mm-hmm. But all the humans, which are now subservient and kind of hunted down and enslaved or just murdered, unlike the first movie, where they've clearly all devolved in intelligence, they can't speak, all the humans talk in this movie. And they all seem to know the exact same language as the apes, and clearly can demonstrate an intelligence on the level of the apes. And yet throughout the movie, all the apes do is deny their intelligence, and the humans talk to them. Right.
It's true. And that is part of the sort of the social commentary of this, is that you have, it could not be as veiled as it was maybe in the 1960s, but in the turn of the 21st century, you have these humans that are, this is obviously a person. You can look at this person and you can tell that, that it's, intelligent and has feelings and, is more than just like a creature. So the idea of the movie is that rather than it just be like, are these things intelligent or anything like that, it's are they worthy of our respect and of us giving them autonomy. So that's why, and they make a very clear thing in the movie, unlike the old thing where you had like, oh, well, we have human hunts and things like that. And it's, they're these animalistic creatures that come in and poison our crops and give everybody pink eye because he won't stop texting on the toilet. But you've got you've got these intelligent creatures. We keep them around. They're like a servant class for us, and we brand them as slaves.
See, my problem is that I think that the message is lost in allowing them to speak. If we're comparing this to how we in fact treat animals, right? Because animals can't talk. I mean, if a dog could come up and have a conversation with you, there'd be no argument that they're as equally as intelligent as you. It's the fact that they spend most of their day licking their butts that even raises the argument of, these are pets.
Hey, Ben's not on trial here.
Wow.
Well,
so I think that giving them intelligence in that way, I think changes that message.
Well, if you want to consider this movie in a vacuum, it works. If you have to consider the original 1968 film, if you watch it, I think the most recent versions that are on streaming, Taylor's first line with Apes present happens like exactly at the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, it's a while.
And
he gets his throat injured.
Right. But I really think it's like at 1 hour. Like it's basically like we're flipping over and now the movie is going to have like this other sort of driving thing. It can't be that like, oh, we can't communicate, when very obviously, I mean, he could have done like, he's a scientist. He could have just been like, okay, well, let's do some base 10 stuff real fast. These monkeys have 10 fingers. I could probably communicate to them like with noises or something like that demonstrate intelligence. But anyway.
Right. But see, that's what's...
This is the same guy that could not look up in the sky at night and realize that it's Earth.
Fair.
But just what I'm saying is that if you have to consider that movies aren't made like that anymore, you got to pump the gas because I got to figure out how to shoehorn six deals with Nike into this movie. And Planet Hollywood, the apes go to Planet Hollywood in the director's cut. So you've got to work all that stuff in, and you can't do it with something where it's like everyone has seen this original movie. So it's, if we had him where it was like, oh, well, he couldn't speak or all the humans were dumb. What does that give Chris Christopherson to do? Nothing.
That's true. Well, I could have used Chris Christopherson speaking a little less, but the thing is that when Taylor shows up in the first one, and the fact that he's able to communicate and show intelligence, that a human's capable of intelligence for the first time, that shifts the whole paradigm of their society. It gives them evidence of intelligence that they never thought humans were capable of. Mark Wahlberg crash lands on this planet, and he shows that he's no capable than any other stupid human that's been running around it for 1,000 years. And what makes him capable of changing and shifting this paradigm? I mean, for the briefest of moments, he demonstrates superior technology because he has that laser gun, but that quickly gets nullified, and then he's right back to being another stupid human running around the jungle with a stick. He doesn't
listen. While he was mouth breathing, he had to consider the fact that he's trying to get a Whataburger in there. And so if you come in and show your ass,
you want a Wahlburger?
A Wahlburger.
Yeah.
Wahlburger? Is that what it's called?
What the restaurant's called. It's called Wahlburgers.
Okay. Oh, I don't know because I
boo, Dylan. It's not my pun. It's their family's pun.
I'm still
booing.
booing.
Here, Judge.
Hell no.
I've not been there, so I don't know. I try not to frequent places that people have like almost beat Korean people to death. But I would say he's trying to get this burger franchise in there, and you can't go in there and show your ass to a bunch of mandrels that are already showing their ass. So
mandrels. I don't think there are any mandrels there. One, I do want to say that there's clearly chimpanzees and orangutans in the Oberon's like simian crew, but where did the gorillas come from? Like, whose bright idea was it to bring gorillas into space? We never see them in the beginning, but like they must have been there somewhere. Why the fuck would you bring a gorilla onto a space station? That sounds like an excellent sci-fi horror movie I actually would have liked to see.
It was something that would have probably been explored in an eventual sequel where Grodd goes down and intermarries with some of the other the apes that are there, and there you go. You've got gorillas on your planet.
Wait a second. So this is a DC Comics property?
It is now. in the pitch. Or am I pitching here? Okay.
Yes,
So anyway, so I see Groot there. I see merchandising. I think we can do this.
I want off the elevator. But that's one of the problems is when there are all these plot holes, they always get thrown away as, they'll be explained in a sequel. Like the ending is especially this way. Mark Wahlberg ends up escaping from Ashlar in the pod that Pericles brings down. One, I have no idea what that pod, what its speed is capable of, but it makes it all the way from Saturn to Earth. There's no way it has enough fuel on that. There's no way it has air and food for Mark Wahlberg that he could make a trip from Saturn to Earth. But
Objection.
Not even the stupidest thing that happens.
This is a movie. This is not a historical.
I want to know how he eats and breathes and other science facts. I will not relax. I will not relax.
This is a movie where you have to immediately suspend disbelief that Helena Bonham Carter can keep getting cast in movies in the early 2000s that aren't Tim Burton movies.
So Mark Wahlberg, he makes it back to Earth miraculously, only to find out that the Lincoln Memorial, has been replaced by a monument to General Thade, which is Tim Roth's horrible antagonist. He's been an annoyance throughout the whole movie. And even though we saw him last trapped in a powerless, crashed spaceship that has absolutely no way to fly, we're to believe that he somehow managed to get some sort of spaceship technology, go through the wormhole, beat Mark Wahlberg back to Earth, which makes sense because he can get out of the wormhole first. But either he's alone in a pod or he has a small band of apes with him who have sticks and somehow overthrow the world with sticks.
Well, they don't make it clear that Thade actually makes it back to Earth himself. It's very possible that he might have just been able to communicate with apes in the past and to sort of flip the script on humans using a series of entertaining podcasts or radio shows, maybe appearing on AM radio.
Objection, Your Honor. No one is influenced by podcasts.
Sustained.
Not ours, anyway.
Thank you. I mean, we see Thade is the Lincoln Memorial. So a lot could have been solved if they didn't make it Thade that's actually in the Lincoln Memorial, but it is.
Do we know that it is Thade and not, in fact, Abraham Lincoln?
It's not Abraham Lincoln. Because it says General Thade in the back, but it says it. The movie's his name is engraved on the memorial, and there's just no possibility that they have any of the resources that it would take or the knowledge to repair a ship or recharge a pod and get it up working again for him to fly within Thade's lifetime. Given thousands of years, maybe they could copy the technology and do something, but not within Thade's lifetime. You know, he's dying in that little room locked alone. I mean, he's done. But the idea, the film has that. And Thade is awful, if I could touch on that. Thade's a terrible character. Not not a strong performance by Tim Roth. All he does is seethe. He's just seething rage. Every single line, he's just snarling it out. He's seething at dinner. He's seething at his dying father's bedside. The movie wants to make it very plain how much Thade hates human beings. And that's all we ever see of him. He's incredibly one-dimensional. It makes him very flat and an uncompelling villain. I want to shake him and say, stop snarling out every line you deliver, Tim Roth.
This movie is exactly 2 hours long. There's only so much time you've got to get across the fact that he hates dem humans.
He sees
and he wants
for like
to
20 minutes of the movie.
Very possibly. But here's the deal. Tim Roth did the best he could with the material that he had. And keep in mind, Andy Serkis had not been invented yet. So he had to do the very best with the resources that he had available. This film itself, the fact that it was even made is amazing, based on all of the screen rewrites, all the people that were attached, all the people that wanted to do this. It was a remake that they had, or a reboot or a reimagining that they had wanted to try to do since like the mid 1980s. I mean, there was a point where Arnold Schwarzenegger was connected. Oliver Stone was going to direct. Chris Columbus. They had Peter Jackson. They had James Cameron. They had everybody and their uncle attached to do something with this before they finally settled on what they had, which was
crap.
We had this big budget movie idea. Well, subjective, but we had this big budget movie idea. We had to wait for technology to catch up. They did, and I say we as if I've got a co-credit on this, but they did an amazing job with CGI at the time, with costumes. It's a triumph in all of these technical areas of filmmaking. It may not have been Mark Wahlberg's best performance. It's no Signs.
It's terrible, but it might be.
You mean The Happening?
The Happening, he's in.
Is he in Signs?
No, that's Mel Gibson.
No.
Oh yeah, that's right. I get all the. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. Well, it's no Boogie Nights. Let's say that. But
that's true. That's true.
But I would say for everything that they had to work with, it was really great. It's got a Danny Elfman soundtrack. It's it's fairly competent it's everything you want in a Paul Giamatti movie.
Hey, I won't complain about Paul Giamatti, except like maybe he goes just a little bit too long at the end where I get it. You're a scumbag. I get it. It's kind of funny. But I don't have many complaints about Giamatti, but I do agree with that. Helena Bonham Carter is pretty insufferable in this, but not as much as like the overwhelming romantic and sexual tension she has with Mark Wahlberg. Human Mark Wahlberg and ape woman Ari, played by Carter.
Right.
And she's a human rights activist, which is pretty funny actually. But her biggest motivation in doing that seems to be because she wants to like fuck the brains out of a human. And that's not veiled.
Honestly, who doesn't?
Much.
Who doesn't?
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but you're a human. I mean, is this bestiality? I mean, she can consent. How am I supposed to feel about this? Mark Wahlberg doesn't actually seem to appreciate it. Actually, he doesn't seem to really like her very much in that way.
Well, keep in mind, it's a flip the script, because in the original movie, it's Taylor that's like, I'd like to kiss you. And she's like, I would, but you're so damn ugly.
But that's a friendly kind of mom kiss, or like a dog licking your face.
No, the original cut, there was full tongue.
I don't think there is full tongue in the original cut.
Talk to Kim Hunter. She'll tell you all about it.
I'd like that stricken from the record. I'm very skeptical. I think that's just a McAdamsism. I don't think that's true. It is a peck on the lip, sure, but they're not gonna hump each other's brains out. Either way, there's no tension there. And like just the longing glances that Carter and Wahlberg exchange throughout this movie are incredibly uncomfortable.
Again, more things to explore in the sequel.
Well, luckily we didn't get one. And the final point that I want to touch on before I rest my case is that they mentioned that apes can't swim. And Deanna quips, that's why we pray for rain. Like, but seriously, that seems like important information for a tactical advantage. Just build moats around your villages. That's what they do in many zoos. They create water barriers because chimps can't swim due to their lengthy muscle fibers. So, find an island in the middle of a lake to inhabit. Problem solved. End of movie. And with that, the prosecution rests.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. Mr. McAdams, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Mr. Banks, thank you very much for being so kind and letting me throw in as you presented your case there, sir. It speaks to your skills as a barrister. But what I would like to say is this: is if you compare the 2001 reboot, reimagining, whatever you would like to call it, to the 1968 film, you will be disappointed. If you were to compare it to the canon of original Apes movies, you will easily see things just as ridiculous, just as head groaner sort of things in those series as well. Or even if you consider the television series, which was contemporary to those films. There was just a lot of things that didn't necessarily work, and you could definitely tell were either studio interference or just we've got to make another one of these movies every 2 or 3 years, so it doesn't matter. We'll just throw it at the wall and see what sticks. The 2001 film had the benefit of seeing all of those things and then trying to be something else, to maybe be a more environmentally conscious movie. There are several scenes where they talk about how like Earth has changed based on sort of like whatever these pre-events were that led to apes taking over the planet. It brings up social issues where we have clearly intelligent animals that are still treated as if they are just possessions, marked as slaves, and kept and killed just sort of at their master's whim. There were a lot of things that they tried to pack into this film when you only have 2 hours and a special effects budget that probably ate up most of the film's production. But you see so many great callbacks to things that people remember from the original series. Maybe those things are flipped on their head, like with Michael Clark Duncan, or with the damn them all to hell sort of stuff. But that's stuff that you've got to throw in a film like this. I mean, it's going to be very painful for people that are fans of the originals, but for newcomers, at least it was something. After so many years in the wilderness of not having any apes like POTA sort of content, it was welcome just to see something. Rick Baker's special effects work, his prosthetics in that film were just amazing, augmented with cutting edge CG technology. This film is like a masterclass on special effects makeup and on just early CGI, because you can go back and you can see and poke holes in some things, but there are people that still in the effects industry that still watch this movie today from a technical aspect to learn how to do their craft better. So
I do agree. I'd like to agree that I think the makeup is excellent, but it also feels like that's the whole impetus for why they made the movie. They were like, we can do some really excellent ape makeup now. What can we do with that? And then they never bothered to put together a good script.
Well, again, it's everyone's own opinion of that. I don't think I do think it's an entertaining movie. I do think that it's a pretty movie to watch. There are some things that if I had been asked that I would change about the film, but I don't think that it's just a bad movie, because it delivers on the idea that is supposed to be action, and it is wall-to-wall action. There are a few scenes where we have to get some exposition out, like the dinner scene where everybody's kind of sitting around and talking about are humans really, worthy of kind of our equal consideration? It's one of the few movies that came out in the 2000s that featured a simian on simian lap dance. It broke so much ground that I think that people should just accept it for what it was. Not really look at it that it's a bad film, but maybe it didn't check every box for every fan of the Planet of the Apes series.
Don't think about the story at all for more than a moment.
Right, but it's an action movie. It's a popcorn movie.
I mean, what action? There's the chase in the jungle in the beginning where they're snatching up people. It's a little thrilling. Though the monkeys jump like 10 feet high. The apes are jumping like 10 feet high. Chimpanzees don't have that kind of vertical leap ability. They can jump about 2.5 feet in the air from a squatting position. So evolved up into an even heavier form. They're not jumping like 10 feet in the air. Maybe
clearly that is why chimps are never drafted into the NBA, but that's not
exactly
the focus of this film. So I would say just in closing that this film broke a lot of ground, and especially in special effects. It's an entertaining movie. It's action packed compared to the original, which is 99% exposition. And I would say that take your family 4 to 5 monkey paws.
Both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Bangs, you may begin.
Your Honor, distinguished members of the court, there's only really one thing I can say after my time on the planet of the remakes, and that is, you maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Oh, really going for it.
Thank
Mr.
you.
McAdams, please present your closing argument.
My closing argument, I'll share with you the words of Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times, where he gave the film 2.5 stars. He praised the twist ending and said, the movie is great looking. Rick Baker's makeup is convincing, even in extreme close-ups, and his apes sparkle with personality and presence. The sets and locations give us a proper sense of alien awe. Tim Burton made a film that's respectful to the original and respectable in itself, and that's not enough. 10 years from now, it'll be the 1968 version that people will still be renting. Maybe I should have read the whole quote before I shared that.
Fair. Yep.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, and Mr. I'm not saying that nickname, Ryan Luis Rodriguez.
That's a
You've all
good
heard
nickname.
the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
My dear old mother used to bend me over and ask her if there was a soul in me, too. Oh.
Oh my god. All right, very very convincing door sound there. I like that.
We have one, Ben. I don't know why you do.
Because I just mimic sounds. All right. Well, when this movie came out, I loved it. I don't know what I was thinking when I was watching it in retrospect. It's not bad, but it's certainly not as good as I remember. Ryan, did you have any history with this film? What did you think?
Yeah, so I saw this opening day with my dad, and
Cool.
I remember the feeling in my stomach sinking after the opening credits, which are great. I want to
They are,
say
yeah.
on record, the credits are fantastic. The problem is that there's a movie attached to them, and
No.
it is this movie.
I would say the design of everything is fantastic.
Oh,
though, like the ape armor.
I mean, it looks
and-
great. It's weird though that a movie made in 1968 could look less fake than a movie made in 2001, but still. But my issue with the movie itself is that I don't really care about the callbacks and all that stuff. I mean, it's grown worthy and all that stuff, but what really bums me out is how joyless it is. Like it's really not fun to watch. It just it's there. And
Yeah,
I
and
really
especially
found
for a
myself
Tim Burton
bored.
movie too. Yeah, and
He was
because
the wrong choice for this movie. I don't know who thought that Tim Burton really had this in him, but he's never been a big political guy. Like, this is not really his forte. Like, I get he wants to do, messed up tales about apes conquering humans. Who doesn't? But he's not calibrated properly to this material.
No, and there's nothing of him really in it. Like, I don't think you can point to anything and say like, oh, there's like the Tim Burton charm.
There's some design elements, like the scarecrows.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first movie that he made with Helena Bonham Carter. This is where they met.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
there you
his
go.
old girlfriend Lisa Marie is in here too, and of course she doesn't show up in the next movie. Helena Bonham Carter does, but let's not get into that.
Yeah,
But,
Tim Burton's not on trial here. Just
no,
this
he's
movie.
not. But if you look
So
at
do we
like
all
the
agree though that the costumes and the design are
amazing,
all good?
Some of the
It
best
holds
makeup
up
I've ever seen in my
remarkably
entire
well.
life.
Yeah, it really does.
It looks amazing.
Still today. I mean, it's hard to believe that's 21 years ago. It's like, damn, that's.
So then, what about the plot holes? Are those enough to sink the film?
No, I mean, honestly, like, even going to the ending, I love the ending. It makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. But I remember being in the theater watching that going, oh, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. And just thinking that's
I
the
was
greatest
right
thing
there,
ever.
like 2 states over with you, man. I was so
like,
excited by that.
When the movie bombed, it didn't really bomb, but when it didn't take off the way that they thought it would, I was so bummed out because I wanted to know what would happen after that. Like, that's such an ending that begs for a sequel. That's the disappointing part, for the fact that there aren't any, is that I can't see exactly what ape cops look like. That's just a shame.
Dylan, do you have any thoughts on the movie?
Man, first of all, I just like to applaud both cases that were presented. I thought they brought up very, good points. Mr. McAdams was very deft in his response to Mr. Bangs, but and Mr. Bangs brought up a lot of points that really rang true for me. You know, it's just like it's hard to conceptualize how the apes got in charge, and to the point where the humans aren't so devolved. Like, there's really nothing special about Mark Wahlberg. You know, they have that line like, oh, they want to see the human who defies the apes, but like, they've all made multiple escape attempts before. They talk about this. Like, they have disdain for the class of humans that work in the houses. I mean, they have a rudimentary social order amongst the humans. And it does beg the question. It's like, why not? Like, why are you living so close to the apes? This planet's huge. You know, and that's one thing I liked about the movie, too. I liked that it was a completely separate planet. But the genesis for how it was populated and everything, it doesn't make sense. And here's the thing, too. I don't feel any of the tension. I don't feel any of the action is compelling. Like, the apes' powers are wildly exaggerated, like Maynard was saying. Like, you have them jumping 15 feet in the air. You have them.
They're super apes.
Well, they're running as fast as horses. I mean, like, they're doing all sorts of stuff that just. Yeah, no, so the movie does not sit well with me. I remembered liking it a bit when it came out because it just looked amazing. And I want to give it credit for looking so good. You know, but for me, if I'm like 51% guilty on this one, you know, like I'm just getting over the line, maybe 60% guilty. So that's where I'm at.
I like it.
Yeah, you know, like I'm pretty much just over the line on guilty. McAdams' case notwithstanding, because it was good and this movie deserved a defense, but I also think it deserves to be found guilty.
So you're locking it in?
Yeah, I'm not the foreman, so there's no pressure on me.
All right, Ryan.
Oh, guilty. Guilty.
Oh, it is guilty.
Damn.
Okay. That's not so then.
But you
I
just
get
said
to
you
have my
loved it,
conscience
right?
be free. Yeah. So
No, I said I love the ending. The ending is
fair
awesome.
enough.
This movie is guilty.
I'm kind of with Ryan in a lot of regards. I do love the way it looks, and I think the apes are actually having a lot of fun. Paul Giamatti. I don't hate Tim Roth as much as the
Giamatti is
Prosecutor
committing,
seems
man.
to.
He is
He
committing.
is. All of the apes are.
100%.
Michael Clark Duncan. They're all fun
I
to watch.
disagree. I think Giamatti is probably the best, but I didn't think any of the performances as the apes were as good and as
Maybe it's
deserving as
just
the
because
makeup
the humans
was.
are so asleep during the whole
You
thing.
know,
So in
I
comparison,
guess. I mean, like, you have Michael Clark Duncan as a guerrilla general. And he doesn't get to do anything cool. Michael Clark Duncan
he gets
is
to roar and
huge.
stuff.
Yeah, and he gets to fight another big gorilla guy, and it's just like, what are we doing here? You know, it didn't make. Yeah, 70% guilty.
Wow.
The more we talk,
the more it's going to nudge. I don't think it deserves to be a unanimous guilty because I think that there is a lot here that's interesting and worth paying attention to. And I do like the way Ron McAdams presented his defense case. So I'm going to go not guilty, but it's not good. My not guilty verdict is just by a hair. It's 51% not guilty.
51% not guilty. All right.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Planet of the Apes 2001, we find the defendant guilty.
Boo! Boo! Hang him!
The verdict is so rendered. I hereby damn Planet of the Apes. Damn it to hell. Court is adjourned.
I don't know that Paul Giamatti is going to return my calls now.
This is Malcolm Gladwell. Reporting outside the Reels
Malcolm
of Justice.
Gladwell's not in Planet. It's Malcolm McDowell.
No, it's Roddy McDowell.
Oh.
Reporting outside the Reels of Justice. Not since the Scopes trial has there been a monkey case more important. But did they get the verdict right? Maynard Bangs, your thoughts?
This one, I think this was the right decision. I think that the whole plot is incoherent. I bet if I was in the jury, I probably would have leaned not guilty because I'm such a big sucker for practical effects and makeup effects that might have been able to save a completely incoherent plot, but I wasn't in the jury. But at least there's a lot of other great Rick Baker work you can see out there. Hellboy, Norbit. So there's
Hellboy.
Yeah, I think he does he's special effects director and special makeup effects artist for sure. Some people have his Wikipedia page open right in front of him, sir. But all in all, I think this confirms never trust anyone over 30.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bangs. I will talk to you later. And now we move on to Ron McAdams, the stalwart defender. Your thoughts on the verdict?
I'm going to admit they had us in the first half, but I really thought that we were going to be able to make a comeback here. It's that the film, I think, is just misunderstood because everybody wants to look at it from the lens of the 1968 film, and I think that kind of kind of clouds people's visions to just enjoying this as the summer event of 2001. There could have been a lot more. It could have gone a lot further. It was just kind of denied its place in history. So I'm glad that it was made. I remember seeing it in the theater and really enjoying it. But I think the last question that anybody needs to ask about Planet of the Apes 2001 is are you guys going to validate my parking? Because I was told that if I was to appear, you got to park downtown. It's like $23 a day at that parking garage across the street. So Rob said that I was going to be covered on this. So you guys said there was going to be a light meal. It was like bags of Cheez-Its. What type of show are you running here?
Best
Everybody
damn
get in the
show
car quick before he catches up.
Well, that's all from me, Malcolm Gladwell. Join me next week as we explore more of cinema's best and worst. Now, back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
Well, he's not going to be back.
Hey, he might be.
Very nice. I would like to say, though,
We could do mumbly Gladwell.
The summer event of 2001 is like The Mummy Returns. But,
well, and that's only
or
because
Pearl Harbor.
It's only because of that Weiss lady. If it was just Brendan Fraser,
no,
would
he
it have
deserves it on his
returned?
own too.
Would it have
Brendan Fraser
returned?
he's a national
great.
treasure.
I'm not
He's
saying
Canadian,
any of
but
those
okay.
things aren't
He
true.
would have been great in National Treasure.
Yes.
Brendan Fraser instead of Nicolas Cage. For
Well, they're
the
making a
next
TV
National
show, so
Treasure.
hey, let's cast him.
Hey, he needs work. Let's do it.
But good for
All right,
him.
it's settled. It's
Good.
settled.
But good job, Ronnie. Glad to have you on here. I know
Yeah,
you like
thanks
this
for having me on.
movie.
I love the show, and I think this movie's okay. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. But I think the other thing, and I did not bring this up specifically because this movie, if nothing else, is a stair step to gauge interest in POTA material, and that's what made the much superior reboot series with Andy Serkis and all that possible. If we hadn't had this 2001 movie, people would have said too much time has passed, and they would not have. And I mean, they even had to shop that around forever. But yeah. I don't think that those movies would have been made if we wouldn't have had this little bump in the middle.
I don't know. I guess we won't know. The question is if 2001 hadn't happened, would that, I think the first one's like 2009 or something, would that have actually maybe really 2011?
Yeah,
well,
it's like 10 years later. Yeah.
Maybe it would have happened sooner though. Maybe
right.
I think the kind of the stink from 2001.
Yeah, the technology wouldn't have been there though. It's all about
right.
Andy Serkis running around in the.
I actually wish I really wish they had been able to do that reboot trilogy more with the Rick Baker style makeup, and that would have been much better.
Yeah, but those are like actual apes in those movies. They're not like the evolved ape people yet, so that would have been weird.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean, interesting. I mean, give it a shot. You know.
Well, what else do you have to lose? So, Ron, what's been keeping you busy? What have you been doing lately?
You know, it's between in and out of methadone clinics. I just. It's just been so crazy lately. So I appreciate you guys rescheduling for me because I had something come up last week we were going to record, and so I appreciate everybody kind of pushing this back for me so I could still.
Oh, no problem, man.
It's very, very kind. Oh yeah,
Ryan didn't want to do it, but
it's.
I still don't.
For you though. But no, it's mostly what I've been kind of doing these days. I've been just trying to stay on top of just sort of my, I don't know, I say acting career, but I've got like several fingers crossed. And I have my YouTube stuff that I kind of play around with and do, and that has been doing better and better as time goes on. You
Ron's
would not
computer
believe.
videos.
I was gonna say it's got such an original name.
Ron's computer videos.
Yeah, Ron's.
It's a
computer
great
videos.
title. It tells you exactly what you're gonna get.
I
Not like
deliver.
Not
Yeah,
like
I've
this show.
I've watched a few
Yes.
of those videos. You deliver on your promise. They're
The
about
title
computers.
of this
It's
show
lot
is a
of fun.
stupid. The title of this show is a stupid pun, and most people don't understand what it's
For an
about at all.
80s show about a trucker, right?
But no, that's kind of been mostly what I've been doing. And then and my son Obi's getting ready to turn 14. So he's getting older, and we're just kind of doing more things, and it's God, it's just life, right?
Yeah,
Man,
sure.
nice, nice.
I know
Yeah.
you were. Wasn't there a film that you had been in? Independent film. I know it was Last Seeking.
Under 3 Moons, right?
Yeah, it was Last Seeking
It's-
from Finalized Money.
Right. I think that they are right in they're getting ready to launch a second kind of wave of funding just to kind of cover up some last expenses. And I think that there are some people in the production that are still, they kind of put off payment and things like that just to kind of make sure that this all just keeps moving forward. So I know people have been patient to kind of get things going, but Under 3 Moons will eventually have a premiere one of these days. But I did a movie actually like in late December with it's got a star-studded cast, man. I'm not joking. It's got Robert Picardo, so from like Inner Space and Amazon Women on the Moon, and he's the holographic doctor from Voyager. I don't want to lead. I don't want to lead with that. I don't want to like.
You should.
Theatrical things, dude. He is amazing in Inner Space. Like, because I guess like to hear him talk about it, he was only going to be in like one scene and had like one line. He's just supposed to kind of growl at the camera, and maybe like talk to the stewardess or something like that. Joe Dante, didn't Joe Dante make that? But anyway,
Yes.
yeah, Joe Dante liked him so much they were like expanded the role and kind of made him where he wasn't such maybe such a bad guy. He's kind of like a villainous character, but he's maybe like not like just like a cold dick killer, you know. Like he's just kind of a whatever. He's like technology, like kind of like centric.
That
but
must
anyway,
be why he put him in Gremlins 2. Then they got along so well, right?
yes,
Well, they
absolutely.
made The Howling together before all that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did they? Oh, okay.
What is he in your movie?
But Bob Picardo's in it.
Bob
Picardo. Yeah, we're on a first
Bob name basis.
To his friends. Yeah.
That's right. We're a Bob name basis.
I text him up. Bob, what you doing today?
and he's like a new phone who dis. But it also has Patton Oswalt in it, and it also
Whoa.
has Patrick Warburton in it.
Oh, fantastic.
And then there are so many other talented people. The director is J. Allen Williams. He's the guy that did Dark Star, which is kind of like interactive CD-ROM game that it took so long to come out that full motion video games fell out of favor and then came right back up the nostalgia kind of wave, and that's when it came out. So I mean, but that's got like most of the original cast of Mystery Science Theater in it. But this movie is it's based on a comic book. It's called To Meet the Faces You Meet. And it should have, I think it's just in post right now. So, I mean, it should be having some manner of premiere, maybe on a streaming service near you in the next few months. We'll see.
Have you?
That's
finally,
awesome.
Have you finally gotten your headshot on IMDb?
Yes, I have pictures out there. Actually, it's so funny because the other day
That was a big goal of Ron's. I remember he wanted his picture on IMDb.
I know, it's true. It's easier because like at the post office, people ask questions, but on IMDb, if you've got the money, they don't care. But the other day, I got like a charge on my credit card from like Amazon, and I was like, "What the what?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, IMDb."
Oh yeah.
But no, you can check me out on IMDb. There's several Ron McAdams, but I'm for some reason I'm like the first one.
You're the biggest one.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm looking at you right now. Ron McAdams 1.
Ron
I got nervous for a second because I'm not wearing pants, so I was like, oh shit, is the webcam on? Like, what's IMDb? Okay, got it.
But you're not wearing pants on that either.
No, it's true.
Hey, it says you're 6'4". Is that true?
That is
He's
true.
big.
I'm 6'4" too. That's awesome.
Ron
Really?
wears it better.
Yeah,
We-
he almost certainly.
That's amazing. We could totally have sex standing up.
I know.
And you will. But save that for after the show. Ron, we always ask for a
Fine.
recommendation from our guests for a movie you think people should check out. So what is a movie that our listeners should check out?
I don't get to watch a lot of movies because I've only got like
It
2
can be a
hours in the
movie,
evening.
any movie,
Well,
your
no,
whole
could I
life.
recommend like a series or something like that?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure,
it's
for
very
you.
it's very cinematic. I mean, it's like a movie.
Is it on Letterboxd? That's our qualifier.
Yes, yes. No, it's I would say if you want to start a series that's entertaining, but yet will kind of challenge you and things like that, and maybe kind of how you think about kind of these interpersonal relationships and whether because there's so much nationalism that kind of goes on. Like, right now we're in the middle of the Olympics, like the biggest nationalist kind of event, in world, kind of the things that people take part in. But I would say The Expanse. If you've never seen that series, it is amazing.
I've been meaning to.
You absolutely should. It started out on Sci-Fi Channel. The whole thing of it is this, not to give away too much of it, but you basically have set in the kind of near future where Earth has colonized Mars and colonized other parts of our solar system, like the asteroid belt that kind of separates the inner planets from the giants out there. And so you have these three kind of factions of humans that several generations in identify themselves as, we're inners, we're from the inner planet, or, we're earthers, or there's people from Mars, which I imagine that are kind of more militaristic than the other two groups. And then you have these people that grew up kind of out in the asteroid belt that, didn't grow up with 1G gravity and things like that. So, you might have people that are like 8 and 9 feet tall because they didn't have proper gravity growing up. So they're all elongated.
Is that what happened to you and Dylan?
That's what happened to us, man.
That's it.
Yeah. My parents, they
all your secrets.
They tied my shoulders to the curtain rod and then put weights on my feet. But But the whole thing of it is just that it's you've got these three groups of people and everybody's kind of pulling their own direction, very, very sort of tribal and stuff. And then there's an event that happens. And the event is this alien, basically like an alien kind of entity that takes the form of this, what they call a proto-molecule. And it's like a subatomic little thing. And they kind of coalesce and they make larger things. They're attracted to energy. And they're trying to race, because if you come into interaction with it, it basically infects you and you'll die. And anything you touch, technology, energy sources, things like that, it just basically consumes everything.
Space
and
COVID.
Sort of, yeah. And so the idea is they're trying to track down where this came from, how they can mount a defense, and it basically brings everybody together against kind of this common thread. But it's an amazing series. It started out on Sci-Fi Channel, was there, I think, for 3 seasons. It was canceled basically as part of the reorganization of Sci-Fi Channel. Plus, the show has a pretty large budget because it's all special effects. It is not Star Trek. It is very much based in the reality of the physics of our universe as we understand them. So the people there, they have like ships that are basically just rockets, and that's how they kind of get around. So there's limits on how fast you can get places and stuff. So it's interesting from the science perspective of it. It's very pretty. It's well acted. Again, it ran for 3 seasons on Sci-Fi, a big budget show, didn't survive reorganization. So Amazon picked it up and ran it for 3 more seasons. And it basically covers a lot of the ground of the book series. And then I think there's 2 books after the series ends, but there's always rumbles about them maybe trying to bring it back for a limited run series to kind of finish out the story. But that would be my recommendation. Absolutely
a cliffhanger.
Give The Expanse a watch. It's worth your time.
But we do know that that mutual threats do not bring people together. It turns out we know that from fact. Now my recommendation this week is another Charlton Heston classic that they tried to remake and failed miserably, and that's 1959's Ben-Hur. CGI simply can't touch the practical effects used to create this epic, especially the massive sea battle between the Roman galleys and Macedonian pirates. 2 seaworthy Roman galleys, each over 175 feet long, and actually based on ancient plans like that they got from museums, along with over 40 miniature ships. An entire artificial lake were constructed to complete that scene. It is probably the best naval battle captured in film history. And the infamous chariot sequence itself took 5 weeks to film. It cost over $1 million, and it's all up there on screen. Actor Stephen Boyd did almost all of his own stunts for it too, including some very dangerous shots in the moments just before his character is trampled to death. Yeah, it has a lot about Jesus in it or whatever, and some of that is kind of cool, but to just see this thing for the pageantry and spectacle of the naval battle and the chariot race. But be prepared to take some bathroom breaks, because this sucker clocks in at 212 minutes, right around the 3.5 hour mark. Zack Snyder,
God.
eat your heart out, but it truly is the epitome of an epic. Ben-Hur is currently streaming on HBO Max.
Oh my God, that's like 4.5 hours in metric.
Yeah. Rye Guy, you were the judge. Very handsome. So what is your recommendation?
For once, I'm going to recommend something relatively on topic. Another Tim Burton film, directed 5 years before the release of Planet of the Apes, an actual good movie this time, and that is 1996's Mars Attacks.
Yes.
If you're looking for an impeccably designed, thoroughly idiosyncratic, genre-bending science fiction horror comedy with outstanding visuals and some of the sickest jokes ever placed in a PG-13 movie, this is for you. It was pretty much lambasted during its original run, but I remember being a 10-year-old in that theater, loving every minute of it, and that remains the case today. Mars Attacks is currently streaming on Netflix.
Hey, Ryan, it's not unusual.
It's not unusual.
Mars Attacks.
And I do love that movie. I was so surprised when I got older and found out that it was so poorly reviewed. I thought it was like the best movie ever when I was growing up. It was great.
Yeah.
I wrote a sequel to it when it came out.
Oh, man.
I never finished. But
everybody and their uncle wanted to be in that too.
We want to read it.
Yeah, we got to.
It doesn't exist.
That's going to happen.
It's
come on.
No,
we'll extract it from your brain somehow.
Schlenzo, what's your recommendation?
I am actually recommending something kind of on theme as well. It's the 1973 animated feature Fantastic Planet, straight out of France. It's about a weird, yeah, pretty much. And then it's about this weird group of gigantic aliens that kind of keep humans as pets. And just like in Planet of the Apes, the humans start to rebel, only to find out that the aliens have weird head dances on the moon, and that's where they can make their move. I'm really not making that up, but it's just great if you like animated movies. This is one that you want to have checked off on your bucket list. Thankfully, it's much easier to find nowadays. Like, you can watch it on YouTube.
It's on Criterion Channel too.
Or Criterion even. Yeah, like it used to be a little harder to find, so it would give you some street credit. Like, oh, well, I'm a real nerd. I've seen this. But yeah, now everyone can see it. So just see it. Enjoy it.
Great
Absolutely.
Great
if Perry Farrell of Pornos for Pyros is to be believed, will make great pets.
Oh, wow.
That's a deep 90s reference, but yeah.
Very deep. You and your 90s, right? It's not coming back. Big Ben, send us on home.
I'm not going terribly obscure, but I'm going to recommend another redoing of a sci-fi classic. It's nominated for an Academy Award, so you may have heard it, and that's 2021's Dune. This is what that 1980 version should have done. It takes the story, it's true to the story, and it fills in the blanks of that technology that Frank Herbert didn't quite go into the depths of. It looks great. It breaks the story into a manageable chunk, unlike that 1980 film, by just focusing on the first half. So I'm very excited to see what they do in the second half, when we actually get to dive into how the environment affects you and how you would affect its environment and so on. The acting is on point. It looks amazing. And most importantly, there is no sting in a codpiece in this movie. If anyone wants to get in contact with Isaac Arthur, I would be curious to know what his thoughts are on it.
We may very well find out in the future, Ben.
Yeah. Someone may or may not be in email talks with him right now, but we can't commit to anything, of course.
Yeah, now that you've call this out like this. This is going to really
Jeez.
make negotiations fall through.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's like, well, now that I know Ben wants me.
Exactly. Ben, you're off the jury for that one. Ron, you're on.
Cool, I'm out, fellas. You ain't gonna see me again.
He finally did it.
And with that, we are all out of show. But we want to thank our guest, Ron McAdams, for joining us. Thank you so much, Ron.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Again, if these guys approach you, in a food court at the mall about appearing on their show, absolutely do it. It's always a fun time. Plus, they spring for Orange Julius.
Well, I gave you that one. It was half full. But we'd love to have you back, and we hope everyone else will join us as well as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Monkeys!
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.